business confidence in the hospitality sector peaked at 49 points before the Omicron variant led to a renewed travel ban and the start of South Africa's fourth wave of COVID-19 infections. The business confidence index for the sector jumped from 37 in the third quarter to 49 in the fourth quarter, but of course at the beginning of December it more than halved. In the meantime, Statistics South Africa says income from accommodation increased to 52.9% year on year. That was in October. Let's unpack what some of these numbers mean. The Bureau for Economic Research, its Deputy Director, George Kershoff, joins us now to help us make sense of the numbers. George, good morning. It's great to have you with us on the program. And of course, the issue as we talk now on the 14th of December is that this survey was conducted a month ago, almost, on the 25th of November. Are some of these numbers a bit outdated, obviously?
Yes. The first number you referred to was from the field work we did during the first 2 weeks of November.
Right.
And then confidence really shot up to 58. So that means 6 out of 10 people in the hospitality industry were quite confident, satisfied with prevailing business conditions. And they did have lots of local bookings as well as from foreign tourists. But then shortly after we completed the survey, then this announcement of the new mutation and the travel bans, and then following on that, the spread of the fourth wave in South Africa, and we did a snap poll amongst those that participated in November, and that was done in the first week of December. And then we noticed many of those people that were still satisfied in the November. After these travel bans and cancellations, confidence fell, it halved to 25. So that means that about 3 out of 10 are still satisfied. And I think those are mainly hospitality providers that focus on the local market. They are still satisfied, but those that had many foreign visitors, they were obviously very severely hit by this travel ban and fourth COVID wave.
Yeah, absolutely. George, can you break down for us, the business confidence index? What does it tell us in terms of revenue projections for the hospitality sector?
Yeah, unfortunately, it only gives us a qualitative assessment. So it doesn't give us actual numbers. So for that, we rely on Stats South Africa, and you reported the number for October, so obviously it takes a while. And these confidence numbers are also strongly based on bookings. And that has obviously now changed with people delaying or postponing or cancelling. They cannot travel to South Africa anymore. But it will hit the industry severely. It is after 20 months where there was almost no foreign visitors, all of a sudden we have the prospects. It's summer in the southern hemisphere, and for the first time they are able to make up some of the losses over the last time. Many firms reported they had so many bookings that they re-employed previous staff. They were also able to lift their prices a bit because in winter time they heavily discounted. So it was a hopeful time, and then it couldn't have come at a more inopportune time, this fourth wave and the travel bans.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the sector itself is going through a whole range of those kinds of emotions. Optimism and then disappointment, then devastation, then optimism again, because we're now hearing that the UK may very well this week lift the travel ban and remove us from its red list.
Yeah, that would be fantastic, but it has really already damaged, many businesses. I think you are right in saying, some people held out and hope, this will bring them the survival that they needed. But it is a whole industry. It is also affecting the transport. So car rental companies, for example, tour guides, other supporting services for the tourism industry, all that are affected. And then we should also not forget the restaurants, which are a a big part of, the whole holiday season, as well as retail. So I can think here, not far away from the V&A waterfront. So that heavily relies on visitors. So you have two aspects, the international visitors that stay away, but you also have, if local visitors are fearful because of the fourth wave and they stay home and they don't go out as often as they would have, then that affects a broader spectrum of businesses, not only the hotels and other accommodation.
Yeah, absolutely. George, you've also surveyed other sectors. I do understand that the numbers do take a bit of time to come in, but looking at sectors like transport services, real estate, business services, are those sectors, you reckon, likely to show any growth by the end of the year?
That's good that you bring up those other sectors as well, because they make up in total about 22% of GDP, so it is quite important. They have a different pattern, a cycle than the other sectors of the economy, so they tend to be a bit later. And the real estate, for example, was severely hit by the unrest in the third quarter. And we see some bounce back in the fourth quarter as the fears around the unrest dies down. But it is still not as strong as it was in the second quarter. Likewise, transport, a very important part of it is freight transport, and that was severely disrupted in the third quarter by the unrest, but also by the closure of the N3 between Gauteng and Durban, the computer problems, the hack at the Portnet, and that has now restored and hopefully will bring some relief to many of the retailers and manufacturers that struggle with sufficient inputs because of delays in delivery. So the transport also picking up, and the one that is unfortunate is business services. So that's quite a big sector, something that it's not very visible to ordinary consumers, but that are, computer services, supporting services to businesses such as accountants, legal services, advertising, recruitment, and that showed quite a nice improvement in the third quarter, but it didn't, it basically flatlined in the fourth quarter. And combined, this is, not so good for economic growth in the fourth quarter, because it's a big sector, but you want to see that improve quite nicely. And unfortunately, these different shocks and flatlining of business services, that doesn't bode well for the fourth quarter GDP growth.
And there are shocks, aren't they, George? I mean, to some degree, the increase of hiring that we saw in preparation for what would have been a bumper summer season in the hospitality season, that's now obviously been reversed. George, thanks very much for coming on and explaining some of the numbers for us. George Kershoff is Deputy Director for the Bureau for Economic Research. Just some of the business confidence numbers insofar as different sectors are concerned, but particularly the tourism, hospitality, restaurant sector, obviously being quite harshly affected, especially given the Omicron variant, the travel bans, and a whole range of other factors as well.